to start coloring the people. And on this one, I'm going to use the green that we used for the table decoration, and I'm going to start up here below the hand. And work my way down. The only part on this person I'm not going to color green of the clothing is the sleeve, and I'll come back with the blue once I'm finished with all the green. And one thing when you're doing the clothing, you'll want to do your brush strokes in the direction that the material is going. So you can see how I'm doing here. And this is just the light base color. Once you start getting into the larger areas, you can switch to a wider brush to make the work go a little faster. You just need to be more careful in the tighter areas. I've switched to a wider brush. Making longer strokes. And if you curve your strokes, get a little more realistic effect to your garments. And you just continue this on for the remainder of the garment. And you can use this same technique also for the larger garment areas for the other people in the picture. What I'm doing now is I'm going back in the areas that I'm shading. I'm using the same exact mixture of green that I used for the base coat, and basically I'm just giving a second coat to areas that I want to be darker. And with it being a second coat, it'll give a light variance to the colors. And the next step will be to add some of the shading that we used on the table, the blue mixture, to give it a darker shaded effect on top of this. And that's really the best way to do with the water-based dyes, is start off light and work your way to the darker shades. As you can tell, especially into this area here, you can start to see how the folds are starting to show up a lot better. Getting some variance in the color. and actually emphasizing the folds even more. All right, now what I'm doing, I've added some of the shading color from before on the table with just a dab of red to it to give a darker shaded green, and we're just going to come in to these areas and blend in the darkness to give it a deeper shading on some of these areas to add just a little bit darker tone to add to the depth of what we already have. Just blending it in, you can let up on the end of your brush stroke a little bit and give it a little dry brush technique to the very end of it, and it'll help blend in this darker color to what's already down, and it'll pronounce the shadows a lot more. You don't want a whole lot on your brush when you're doing this. You want to be able to control where you're putting it. And as you can tell, it's adding a lot of depth to the picture now. And you just continue to do this throughout this garment, and basically using the same techniques on all the other colors through the garments across the whole picture. Now that we're done with the green robe, I'm going to come back in with some watered down blue, evening blue for a wash, and I'm going to do the sleeve. Start in with the smaller brush up in the detailed portions of it. Wash on there and come in. Down here at the armband, and I'm going to switch to a larger brush. Cover more ground. And remember to go with the grain of the fabric. And this wash is just the base coat. Basically, it'll be end up being the highlights. We'll come back in and add some darker hues to it for the shadow. smaller brush. Look in the tight areas here. What I'm doing is I'm just putting on the base wash of a light coated evening blue that's just been watered down. No other colors added. I used a larger brush to get the larger areas done. Now I'm coming back in with a smaller brush to get the details and start building some form. We'll come back in with some darker blue mixed in with some of that shade color that we had mixed up earlier to help build the form even more. You remember want to go with the flow of the garment. Now that the arm is complete, what I did is come back after I did the blue wash background. I came in with the shaded blue that we've been using throughout the picture, came back and added it into these areas here, then to the folds to accentuate the folds, and added almost a straight shadow wash in these areas here to give it a deeper shadow. And then I came back for the armband with a wash of yellow, added some of the shading blue to the yellow as a wash, come back across this way to make it look like the shadows on this side, and lightened it up toward the back side of the arm. And then what I did on the yellow wash, added just a dab of red on the tip, added it to the yellow, and came back in to add the decoration for the armband.